I am 82 years old, and I am about to tell you something that could have cost you your life if the wrong people were still alive. For 15 years, I was the only man whom both Bumpy Johnson and the Genovese family trusted. I was the bridge, the intermediary, the man who kept the peace between Harlem and Little Italy, and a single error in judgment nearly destroyed everything we had built. It nearly turned the streets of Harlem into a cemetery. Before I tell you what happened that October night in 1963, you need to understand something. I am not making this video to glorify anything. I am not proud of everything I did. I am doing this because the story you know about Bumpy Johnson, about the Mafia, about Harlem in the 60s, is incomplete. And the lessons I learned in that world, about trust, about loyalty, about the consequences of a single mistake, are lessons you need to hear. Because no matter what world you live in, legal or illegal, corporate or street, these truths are universal. My name doesn't matter. If you search the police files, you will find references to me as the accountant or the diplomat. I was never arrested, I never testified, and until this moment, I never told my full story. But I am 82 years old, and all the men I am going to talk about are dead. Bumpy died in 1968. Vito Genovese died in prison in 1969. The rest, well, let's just say life expectancy in our business wasn't very long. I met Bumpy Johnson in 1958. I was 24 years old, fresh out of Howard University, one of the few black men in New York with a degree in accounting. My mother had cleaned floors for 20 years to pay for that education. She thought I was going to work in a bank. Instead, I ended up working for the most powerful man in Harlem. How did it happen? Bumpy needed someone who could handle complex numbers, someone who understood how to launder money through legitimate businesses, someone who could sit at a table with Italian lawyers and not look out of place. I needed money. My mother was sick. The medical bills were piling up, and no bank in Manhattan was going to hire a black accountant in 1958, no matter how good my grades were. Bumpy was different from what you would expect. People remember him as a gangster, a criminal. And yes, he was. But he was also a man who read philosophy, who quoted Marcus Garvey, who funded schools in Harlem when the government wouldn't. He was complex, contradictory, dangerous, and protective at the same time. He told me something in our first meeting that I never forgot. In this world, there are two kinds of power: the power you take with violence and the power you earn with respect. The first lasts until someone stronger comes along. The second lasts generations. Bumpy understood that Harlem wasn't just territory to control, it was a community to protect. But here is the truth no one wants to admit. Harlem in the 50s and 60s did not exist in a vacuum. The Italian Mafia controlled most of New York, and although Bumpy was powerful in Harlem, he needed relationships with the five families to operate. He needed access to their distribution routes, to their political connections, to their protection. That's where I came in. Bumpy needed someone who could speak the language of the Mafia, literally and figuratively. Someone who could negotiate deals, resolve disputes, keep the lines of communication open. Someone neutral, someone both sides could trust. For 5 years, it worked perfectly. I was the messenger, the negotiator, the problem solver. When there was tension over territories, I arranged meetings. When there were misunderstandings about payments, I checked the numbers. When there were rumors of betrayal, I investigated the truth. I became something rare in that world. A man with no full affiliation to either side, but respected by both. The Genovese family called me Il Professore. Bumpy called me my ambassador. I walked between two worlds that normally killed each other, and I kept the peace. And honestly, during those years, I thought I was untouchable. I thought I had cracked the code. I thought I was smarter than everyone else. That was my first mistake. Arrogance. In 1963, an opportunity arose. A drug syndicate in Philadelphia wanted to expand into New York. They had connections with suppliers in Mexico, better than anything we had at the time. Better product, better prices, better logistics. But they needed local partners. They needed someone in Harlem and someone in the Mafia. They came to me first, a guy named Vincent Calabrese, an intermediary from Philadelphia. He offered me a percentage if I could arrange a meeting between his people, Bumpy, and the Genovese, a tripartite deal. Everyone would win. Harlem would get better product. The Mafia would get new routes. Philadelphia would get access to the New York market. On paper, it made perfect sense. The numbers worked. The projections were solid. It could have made everyone rich. And my percentage would have been enough to retire, take care of my mother, maybe even get out of that world. But there was something I didn't like about Vincent Calabrese. I couldn't pinpoint it exactly, just a feeling. The way he asked too many questions, the way he pushed too fast, the way his eyes moved when he spoke, as if he were calculating something he wasn't saying out loud. My instinct told me to wait, to dig deeper, to check his references more thoroughly. But greed is a powerful thing. And I wanted that money. I wanted out. I wanted my mother to get the best medical care. I wanted to prove I was more than just an accountant, so I ignored my instinct. I arranged the meeting. It was in a warehouse in the Bronx, neutral territory. October of 1963. Bumpy brought 3 of his men. The Genovese sent Anthony Tony Bender Strollo and 2 of his lieutenants. Vincent Calabrese brought 2 associates from Philadelphia. And I was there to facilitate. The first 30 minutes went well. We discussed terms, percentages, logistics. Bumpy was cautious but interested. Tony Bender asked smart questions. Vincent had answers for everything. Too many answers, too polished. Then Bumpy asked something simple. Who else in Philadelphia knows about this deal? Vincent hesitated. Just a fraction of a second. But Bumpy saw it. I saw it. Tony Bender saw it. Nobody, said Vincent. This is just us. Bumpy leaned back in his chair. His eyes narrowed. You're lying. The room froze. You could feel the tension like static electricity. Hands moved toward weapons. No one fired, but everyone was ready. I'm not lying, said Vincent, but his voice had that high-pitched tone liars get when they're caught. Tony Bender turned to me. Did you check this guy out? And there it was. The moment my world collapsed. Because the truth was that I hadn't checked him enough. I had made some calls, checked some basic background, but I hadn't gone deep. I had trusted the surface because I wanted the deal to work. I checked him, I said, but my voice sounded hollow even to me. Bumpy looked at me, and in his eyes, I saw something I had never seen before. Disappointment, not anger, disappointment, which was worse. Everybody get out of here, said Bumpy. Now, and Vincent, if I ever see you in New York again, there won't be a conversation. We left. There was no shootout that night, but the damage was done. 2 days later, we discovered the truth. Vincent Calabrese was working with a rival faction in Philadelphia that wanted to use the deal to map out Bumpy's and the Genovese's operations. It wasn't a legitimate deal. It was reconnaissance, intelligence, and I had almost let it in. If that deal had gone forward, if we had shared our routes, our contacts, our operational structure, it would have exposed everything. It would have given our enemies the complete map, and in that world, that information meant war. It meant death. Bumpy called me to his office, just the 2 of us. I expected him to kill me. Honestly, part of me thought I deserved it. Instead, he said this. I hired you because you were smart, but intelligence without judgment is dangerous. You almost got us all killed because you wanted a payout. Greed made you stupid, and in this business, stupid gets you killed. He was right, completely right. My greed, my arrogance, my impatience almost caused a war that would have turned Harlem into a battlefield. I'm going to give you 1 chance, said Bumpy. 1, because you've been loyal up until now, because your work has been good. But if you ever put your own interests above the community again, if you ever let greed cloud your judgment again, there won't be a second chance. Do you understand? I understood. That was the last time I let money dictate my decisions. I worked for Bumpy another 5 years, until his death in 1968. I never made that mistake again. Every deal, every negotiation, every decision I examined 3 times. I verified everything. I trusted my instinct. And I never let greed override judgment. After Bumpy died, I got out. I used the money I had saved to open a legitimate business, an accounting firm in Harlem. I helped small businesses, churches, community organizations. I never got rich, but I slept well at night. Now I am 82 years old. And when I look back on my life, that moment in the Bronx warehouse is the one that taught me the most. Not my years in college, not my successes. That moment of near catastrophic failure. Here is what I learned, and it applies no matter what world you live in. Trust is the most valuable currency you have. Once you lose it, you almost never get it back. I almost lost the trust of Bumpy, of the Genovese, of everyone in that world. And if I had lost it completely, I would be dead. Greed makes you stupid. It clouds your judgment. It makes you ignore warning signs. It makes you take shortcuts. And in any business, legal or illegal, shortcuts eventually catch up to you. Your instinct exists for a reason. When something feels wrong, it probably is. I knew something was wrong with Vincent Calabrese. I felt it in my gut. But I ignored that feeling because I wanted the money. It almost cost me everything. Loyalty is not just a word. It is action. It is putting the interests of your community, your team, your family, above your own. Bumpy understood this. That's why Harlem respected him. That's why people still talk about him decades after his death. And finally, we all make mistakes. What matters is what you do afterward. Bumpy gave me a second chance. I didn't waste it. I spent the next 5 years proving I deserved that trust. And when I left that world, I did it with honor. I look at young people today, in corporate business, in startups, in any competitive field, and I see the same mistakes. I see greed overriding judgment. I see people ignoring their instincts because they want the deal. I see trust being betrayed for short-term gains, and I want to scream at them. I want to tell them I have seen where that path leads. I have seen careers destroyed. I have seen empires collapse. I have seen men dead because they took shortcuts. In the world I lived in, mistakes killed you literally. In your world, maybe they only kill your career, your reputation, your relationships. But the principle is the same. One error in judgment, one moment of greed, one decision to ignore your instinct can undo years of hard work. If you are in a position of trust, if you are the bridge between 2 worlds, 2 departments, 2 business partners, understand the weight of that responsibility. It's not about you. It's about everyone who depends on you doing the right thing. Verify everything. Don't assume. Don't take shortcuts. Don't let time pressure or the promise of money make you careless. Because one mistake can destroy everything. Trust your instinct. If something feels wrong, dig deeper. Don't ignore those warning signs just because you want something to work. Your subconscious often sees patterns your conscious mind hasn't processed yet. And if you make a mistake, own it. Don't make excuses, don't blame others. Accept responsibility and work to rebuild the trust. You may not always get a second chance, but if you do, don't waste it. Bumpy Johnson taught me more about leadership, about responsibility, about the consequences of decisions than any college professor. And the most important lesson was this. In any business, in any relationship, in any position of trust, your word is everything. Once you break it, you are never the same. I almost broke my word that night in the Bronx. I almost betrayed the trust of men who had bet their lives on me, and that near betrayal haunted me for decades. Don't make my mistake. Don't let greed override judgment. Don't ignore your instinct. Don't take shortcuts with trust. Because in this world, whether on the streets of Harlem in 1963 or in today's boardrooms, trust is everything. And once you lose it, you rarely get it back. I am 82 years old. All the men I spoke about are dead, but the lessons I learned are still alive. And if this video keeps one person from making the mistake I almost made, then it was worth telling. Trust is fragile, greed is dangerous, instincts are wise, and second chances are rare. Don't waste any of them.